fruits. I have been, and always shall be, your friend.
The message that was sent with Kal-El to Earth is, he believes, what drives his central ethos of protecting Earth and all of its creatures.
People were going to die!
Problem is, that message is fragmented. Kal-El knows that Jor-El and Lara's message is broken, but he believes that it continues on offering loving missives to the sun they gave up so that Earth can be safe and the Kryptonians can live on. Unfortunately for our hero, that belief couldn't be more wrong.
Good luck with that.
Jor-El and Lara's real mission for their son is revealed after the engineer hacks into the Fortress of Solitude's Super Snow computer. Soon we learn that the end of the transmission, one which Kal-El never heard until it is publicly released by Lex Luthor to smear him, showcases a different side of the El family, who actually chose Earth due to the perceived weakness of the humankind in the hopes that their beloved Kal-El would spread his Kryptonian seed among Earth's women and eventually rule Earth with an iron fist as the so-called last son of Krypton. For Gunn, it was his love of the character that inspired the surprising twist.
I'm a huge Superman fan. So first of all, I had to trust myself that I was going to honor the pieces of Superman that we needed to keep the same, and also allow myself to make changes where changes might work and wouldn't go against the integrity of who the character is.
Gunn seems to have never wavered in that trust in himself, at least not so far as Kal-El's origins are concerned.
All right. So it is a day. It is Tuesday. The opening weekend of James Gunn's Superman has come and gone. And here we are. It was a heck of a, honestly, it's been out for America for a week. The early prime showings opened up Tuesday at 7 p.m. And then we had a full day starting at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So 2 p.m. local time. So as your time zone hit 2 p.m. in the U.S., James Gunn's Superman film was made widely available. So it has had, and it's had tens of thousands of showings all over the world, but especially here in America, where it was in like 4,200 theaters. So that's where we're sitting. So we should all be very looking forward to what those numbers say, right? It should have been a banger of a weekend of a 6 day. Was it a 6 day weekend? Yeah, something along those lines. But first, hello chat, Legionist. Hello, sir. It's awesome that you're always here. Up and away is definitely something. Hello, Miss Martin Muses. Mwah. Thank you for being here. Disbrew. It did so well that Pedro wants to leech off of its hype. Yeah, they're shooting for like a Barbenheimer thing. They're trying to make it super fantastic or something. It isn't going to work because they didn't open the same weekend. I think both films are actually going to suffer. I think both films are actually going to suffer because they didn't open the same weekend. Exactly, Disbrew. You cannot Barbenheimer 2 weekends apart. It just isn't possible. They had to have the same opening weekend in order for that to actually stick. So what exactly? So we did we did an out of the theater 1 week ago. Actually, we did an out of the theater reaction. That is wise, Miss Martin. It is very wise. So we did an out of the theater reaction last week, and I didn't like it then, and I don't like it now. And I need to get faster at recording and editing because my video isn't going to be out until Thursday at this point. So a full week after the global release of Superman is when my review is going to drop. But you know what? That is just the way that it is, because this went from like a 10-minute, here's what it is and here's how it did and here's what I think, to we have actually gotten better. We have actually gotten better iterations of Superman in animated films and in live action. And I'll get into that in just a little bit. I'll spoil my video just a tish, but I think once you guys see it, it'll make sense. And yes, I can absolutely break it down Barney style. There, Phil McCracken. I even said your name, which I swore I would never do again, but I did. So here are what we know for the fact of Superman's opening when it was first. It's been all over the place. It has been all over the place. The marketing budget, like, we will rock. Just kidding. See, tangent. We're gonna go back to this comic book movie article in just a tish, but overall, how is Superman doing? How is James Gunn's Superman doing? Well, it could be better, it could be worse. So opening weekend, that's not accurate, but domestically it is sitting at 137,923. Internationally, it really needs help. It hasn't cracked 100 mil internationally, which is going to be a problem. It is going to be a problem. So this is not where they want to be at all. The fact that Lilo and Stitch So Lilo and Stitch is about to cross 1 billion, and it had a better opening weekend. Minecraft hit 1 billion, and its opening weekend was massive. And then you just had Jurassic Park. Its opening weekend was like 100 million more than Superman's. None of that is good, especially because this thing does not seem to be enticing international audiences. So they should have leaned into making this as Americana as possible, but did not. So that's where we're sitting. But as you heard in the intro, James Gunn made another boo-boo when he double, triple, and quadrupled down on basically the fact that Jor-El and Lara are genocidal Kryptonian supremacists. And a lot of people are trying to cope. A lot of people are trying to say that that's not what that means. We don't know that is for sure. Where is the context? Because to be fair, it's true. Twitter, X, and clickbait is not a new tactic. But here is the clip that was going viral on Twitter. We'll full screen this bad boy. All right. Here's the clip that was going viral on Twitter.
I'm a huge Superman fan. So first of all, I had to trust myself that I was going to honor the pieces of Superman that we needed to keep the same.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
And also allow myself to make changes where changes might work and wouldn't go against the integrity of who the character is.
It goes against the integrity
of the character.
So I think
that was simply dealing with some of those things, was simply dealing with allowing ourselves to change part of the story in a way that was interesting for the DCU, but that wasn't something that went against who Superman was.
It 100% goes
and it
against
has
who
been
Superman
something that's
is.
been played with in the comics before.
Just because something got played with the comics before does not mean that it's good. Like, that's the comics, and now granted, I am going to defer to those individuals who have read comics more recently than me, because I I'm a millennial. I am a, what are we, the ones that are closer to the Gen Z, the Zennials? So you have the Zennials that are closer to Gen X, and you have the Zennials that are closer to Gen Z. But then you have the millennials who might be closer to age in Gen Z, but act more like Gen X. It's a whole, the millennial generation is just a weird discombobulation of stuff. And it's gotten to the point where you turn away from a lot of like you go to Eastern entertainment because it doesn't have all of this crap in it, all of this intersectional feminist just propaganda, it's misandric, it's misandry all throughout. Like, they all want to scream misogyny, but none of them talk about the blatant misandry that is running rampant throughout all entertainment. And it's just insane on the face of it. And denying it is, I mean, denial is a heck of a drug, I will say that. But James Gunn sat there and said, I trusted myself, not the opinions of fans, not the opinions of writers. And of course, we know his favorite DC, his favorite writer is Tom King. And he's like, I love Tom King's stuff. Remember, Tom King is the one who cucked Batman at the altar, where Catwoman stood him up at the altar. They made a whole big thing about Batcat, and then Tom King had cucked Batman at the altar. Now you've got James Gunn saying, I'm a huge Superman fan, and then changes a core fundamental element of what makes Superman who he is. This gets very much into nature versus nurture type situation. And so some people are trying to say, no, this means that his raising by the Kents and his upbringing is even more important. I am not adopted, so we'll throw out that disclaimer, because by gosh, the fact that you have to have disclaimers now to have opinions is indicative of how insane of a landscape of entertainment that we're in, where it's just like, well, you don't know because you're not adopted. Well, you don't know because you're not a man. Well, you don't know. It's like, okay, well, you have no idea because you are not the sole surviving individual, or believe you're the sole surviving individual of a exploded planet of a race of super beings. So nobody's allowed to have an opinion on Superman because nobody knows what it's like to be Superman. That's all a bunch of just like ridiculousness on the face of it. 100%. Okay? But the idea that nobody is really able, that Superman is boring to write or hard to understand or unrelatable. There are a ton of kids, myself included, my children included, who grew up with normal, happy childhoods. It's insane the amount of, like, people are so desperate to be like the underdog of a story that they are willing to warp their own childhoods in order to make it seem like they overcame hardships. You can still have a good life and face hardship. That is a thing. And David Cornsweet was a great casting choice, and there's a clip of it. The clip of him saying it is in my review video. He understands the character, because he even says, like, you know, Superman's powers, like all these things, his strength, his speed, his laser vision, his, like, everybody thinks that these are the most boring parts of him. And Cornsweet even says, he's like, that's not the case. Like, these are actually the most interesting aspects of him. And what's insane is these DC, I don't know, like, they're not influencers, but it's like the DC studio crew or whatever. It's these people that talk DC stuff, that work for DC Studios, and they got an interview with James Gunn, obviously. And they are, before James Gunn shows up, the chick that's sitting with them is like, if you had Superman's powers for a day, what would you do? And she's like, I would just like, I would make everybody essentially like worship me, is what she said. And then James Gunn, they ask him that question, and she's like, I think it would only take like about 10 hours. And then they asked James Gunn, like, what would you do if you had Superman's powers? And he's like, I'd go blow stuff up with my laser vision. You're like, what? That's the guy writing Superman. He's just like, yeah, that's the kind of kid I was. I was like, I like to light stuff on fire. One of my favorite things to do in movies is light people on fire. Okay, maybe you should have worked on Fantastic Four. There's a guy that literally sets himself on fire. Oh, wait, you can't because you got fired because of PDF file tweets that you deleted and that are resurfacing again. Why DC hired you after paying J.J. Abrams $500 million, I will never understand. And I really wanted to like this Superman film. I even said before I went to the theater, I dropped a short and I was like, I just want a perfect, a phenomenal Superman film. Okay? That's what I wanted. And that isn't what we got. We got a James Gunn ensemble cast starring Mr. Terrific, co-starring Superman and the Justice Gang. Literally. It's insane. The more I think about it, I've had to go rewatch it. Did not pay for it. But like the middle fingers, the fart joke humor, it's just insane. You can get away with that with like Guardians. You can get away with that with Scooby-Doo. The same humor that's in Scooby-Doo, the live action Scooby-Doo that James Gunn wrote, is in Superman 2025, is in James Gunn's Superman. So, I don't believe that James Gunn is a huge fan of Superman, let alone a fan of, like, I don't think he's a fan at all. He talked about how he couldn't crack the character. Superman is not a hard character to understand. He is a man who needs to have, he is a paragon who must be the pinnacle of self-control, or the world will disintegrate, literally. If he loses control for even a nanosecond, that spells disaster. If not for him, for somebody else, or someplace else, or something else. He is the absolute model of self-control and of kindness. People misunderstand nice and kind, okay? Any girl who's survived public high school, I don't know about private high school, I'm a product of public schools, but any girl who has survived public high school will tell you that those brats will be nice to your face and they will be sabotaging you behind your back. They'll be spreading rumors about the fact that you're easy, that you're that you've done stuff, that you've drank, you've done drugs, you're a party girl, you're this, you're that, like, all because they are attempting to destroy your reputation so that you can't compete with them for whatever it is that they think they're competing for. I just did my thing, and I know this is going to shock you guys, but I was quite the dweeb in high school. So when those rumors tried to start flying around about me, they didn't stick because everybody was just like, yeah, no, there's just no way. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but especially when you grow up, and it doesn't matter, big high school, small high school, though, that stuff spreads like wildfire. And I have said this multiple times and I will say it again. Gunn is a one-trick pony, and it is not a good trick. You can be a one-trick pony. You can be a one-trick pony. But it better be the best freaking trick anybody has ever seen. Like Joss Whedon, people can hate me all they want, but he's kind of a one-trick pony. He is a one-trick pony. Am I on the wrong mic? Da 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 da. Talk amongst yourselves. Na 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 na. The one time that I looked down at the chat. Oh no, what am I doing? Hold on. I'm gonna screw something up. They changed everything back here. No, that is that. Hold on. Is that better? Is that better? I hope that's better. Hopefully I don't talk like, or sound, hopefully I don't sound like I am speaking through whatever it's called, water. But yes, it is completely insane that Gunn is going to sit there and attempt to call himself a huge Superman fan when he is going to undermine Jor-El and Lara. Why does nobody tell me this stuff? Okay, Jade, so it's not just me. Thank God. Like, send up a flare in the chat if I sound like I'm talking through water, guys. Like, it's okay. Highly organized. You know what's weird? I triple checked before it must have changed when I started the stream because I like quadruple checked my settings. And I do release videos, Disparu. That hurts. I just released a short. Talking via CB. All right, good to know. All right, I'm back out of the chat because if I go into the chat, we're gonna spiral and it's gonna be bad. All right, so I should take a picture of a screenshot that. Good Lord, I think that's going on my thumbnail. So Gunn has also said that he has always been responsible. He's always felt a sense of responsibility to come in under budget with his films, and now it's even more important to him that he is what is it called? A studio exec, a studio head, right? So hold on a second. No, it's on mute. So like that thing shouldn't have even have worked. It's one of these fancy headsets that I haven't played with. All right, bro. I just released a short last week. That's the same. It was supposed to be a video. I didn't know that they extended shorts out to anything less than 4 minutes. Okay. Good Lord. Bro, I have so many videos in the can. I'm just like, this is not since I can't be a full-time YouTuber and I have a day job and I've got a family and all this stuff, I am such a slow editor. It takes forever. I'm just gonna have to dump like all 15 videos that I've been working on. Good stuff. Sounds like you're using a James Gunn here, Mike. Yeah, tell me about it. So Gunn has talked about how it should be better now though, right? So Gunn has talked about he did an interview where he said he's always felt a sense of responsibility for his budget and to come in underneath it. And yes, Disparu, because I do actually have a life. You bet your ass. Javier, I love you. But yeah, there is no way this movie is breaking even. So the rumor that's going around is the official budget. Where did it go? Why did it change? There we go. So 125 million is what they're trying to say. That is not opening weekend. The fact that it dropped 33% from the 11th to the 12th, that is not good. And then it dropped another 17% from the 12th to the 13th. Like, there's already a significant drop. Now, the Monday drop isn't surprising, but this is your Sunday drop. This is your Saturday drop. For anybody keeping track, that's not good. That is not good at all. So this is a problem. I don't know if they have. Here we go. So for summary purposes, they're claiming the production budget was $225. We know that is a crock of baloney. Okay, we have the official tax documents from Ohio that state that this was $363 million just to produce. Even if you got the greatest tax break in the world, you're not going to get rid of $140 million of production overhead. That just doesn't work like that. That isn't how it goes. So Superman's budget could soar as high as 400 million. It's over 400. Like, it is 100%. So the listed budget from the production team of the Ohio government to seek tax incentives is what they mean by that. Listed the budget as $363.8 million. Now, those of you that were here last week, we pulled out our handy dandy calculators just to figure stuff out, because what people are trying to run with on Twitter is that globally it's already made 217 million and its budget was 225. So it is, this close to breaking even. These people don't understand how this works, but they are going to run cover for this until it's out of theaters, and then they're going to be like, okay, here's honestly how Superman did. So we're going to make this nice and big. Oh, it doesn't get much bigger than that. All right. Tried to make it bigger. Sorry, guys. There's only so much I can do. So, one longtime financier says 363 million figure is not incorrect. So, we're going to do 363,800,000. That's what 363.8 means. I'm trying to prove that I am not a shill, a hacker, a liar, because holy crud, do people enjoy. You're taking things out of context. You want this movie to fail. No, I didn't want this movie to fail at all. But Gunn just keeps putting his foot in his mouth. All right. Then it says DC is going. So the usual global marketing campaign for a superhero film is 150 million. This is going to be a $200 million marketing campaign. And I've heard that it actually got closer to 250, 100 million more than your average superhero film. So you have to take 363.8 million, and then you have to add, we'll take the lower figure of 200 million. Some people are saying that they only marketed 100 million. Guys, were you paying attention? This movie was everywhere. They went all out on the marketing for this film. So we're gonna split the difference between 150 and 250. I'm being generous, and we're gonna add 200 million. Okay, what does that bring you to? $563.8 million. Now, that is production and marketing combined. Okay, when you multiply this by 2.5, because that's usually what you have to earn back in order to break even. Because remember, the production and marketing has to get paid. Then the theaters have to take their cut. Then the distributors have to take their cut. Then you have to do all of the backdoor stuff that you've got to, okay, well, we've got to build back that asset up, and we've got to build that back asset up, and all of these other assets sitting over here need to be like with that we took from in order to borrow against the film. We have to repay those. So all of that stuff has to get taken care of. So to break even, as a general rule, you have to make 2.5 times your budget. So if we split the difference at a 200 million marketing and do the 363.8 that we have from the Ohio tax documents, this film, in order to break even, needs $1,409,500,000 to break even. To break even. Now, let's say that we go with the Superman costing, I don't know what Ohio is doing. I have never heard of a tax break that saves you $140 million. Sorry, 138 million, but $140 million. So even if we took 225 million and we added 200 million for marketing, that's still 425 million. Guess what happens when you multiply that by 2.5? $1,062,500,000 to break even. Now let's say that this thing costs only 400 million, like that they're trying to push this 400 million number. Oh, it's 400 million on the nose. It's not. But let's say that it's 400 million on the nose, okay? 400 million times 2.5. Guess what this number is, guys? $1 billion on the nose to break even. $1 billion. To break even. They're pushing this 400 million number, and now they're trying to lower it even more. So even if you took even if you said, no, the marketing campaign is only $100 million. Okay, so 100 million, and we'll say plus 225 million because Gunn is desperate to run with that number. You get 325 million. I think you guys see where this is going. Obviously, since it was 400 million and we hit $1 billion to break even, that's why they're trying to get away from that $400 million. That's why they're attempting to, but it's never going to. So multiply this by 2.5. Guess what? You need $812.5 million to break even. To break even, guys. This is where we're sitting. The man who sat there in an interview and said, I've always felt a sense of responsibility. I've always felt a sense of responsibility about coming in under budget and coming in on time, and now it's even more important as a studio head. Even if he comes in at 225 million of a production budget and 100 million marketing budget, which we know neither of those numbers are true. He still, his James Gunn Superman needs $812,500,000 to break even. Insanity. Absolute utter insanity. If I had a job and I was like, yeah, okay, we're going to spend this much money and we have to make $1 billion just to break even, I would not have a job. I would not have a job. Warner Brothers cannot afford this. There's $37 billion in debt. $37 billion in debt. A domestic debut of 175 million or thereabouts is within the realm of possibility. A domestic debut, not global, domestic. They wanted a $175 million domestic debut. Do not let them gaslight you. Do not let them gaslight you. They needed this film to be exceptional, astonishing, actually breaking box office numbers. They needed money. They needed the money. And they didn't get it. They didn't get it. $217 million for a 5-day opening weekend is atrocious, especially when Jurassic Park Rebirth had over a $300 million opening weekend. And you've got Fantastic Four coming up in 2 weeks. And the reviews on this are mid at best and all over the place. This isn't good. This is not good. They're in trouble. They're in huge trouble. Not only that, what we're now looking at is just this insanity of spending, and the fact that Warner Brothers is $37 billion in debt. It had to split into two companies, and it shoved the debt off into its TV, its linear TV, because linear TV is doing so great. But in order to keep the studio afloat, they literally had to basically make a shell corporation to absorb all the debt so that the Warner Brothers TV can go bankrupt while Warner Brothers Studios is still working. They don't have hundreds of millions of dollars to pour into this project. They gave J.J. Abrams $500 million and got nothing for it. They got gender swapped Penguin. They got gender swapped Penguin. I don't know who is making decisions over at Warner Brothers, but they're making emotional decisions, not rational business decisions. If I ever suggested anything like this, I would be laughed out of a boardroom. I would be laughed out of a boardroom. I'd be like, "Hi, pay me $500 million, and then I'm going to, I'll give you something. I don't know what yet. I haven't figured that part out, but I'll get you something. Don't worry about it." What? Are you serious? That is not a sound business strategy. So, majority of Warner Brothers Discovery's $37 billion. I didn't pull that number out of thin air. They're $37 billion in debt, and they're pinning it onto their new TV network. And David Zaslav is oh my gosh, not Bob Iger, Bob Chapek. It's Bob Chapek all over again. This guy is being set up to fail. He's going to get his golden parachute. He's going to be the fall guy for Warner, and he's going to go and live a free life among islands and Mai Tais, or whatever it is that you do when you're a trillionaire who's retired. It's like that show. I've put clips of it in my video as well. The show The Producers, where they're purposely trying to get a bomb because they can make more money that way with like the payout from the investors' interest. Like, we hired the wrong directors, the wrong actors. Where did we go right? That seems to be the mantra of DC. It's like they've been trying. It's like they knew that they didn't have the talent or the patience, or the ideology to actually dig themselves out of the hole with anything that they could produce. So they just produced mostly crap and then made a shell company that'll go bankrupt. All that debt will dissolve. It's basically a bailout. They're setting themselves up for a bailout. It's just like 2008 with the banks. It's just like 2011 with the banks, and 2008 with the housing market, 2010 with the housing market, 2013 with the housing market, the banks again in 2015, Hollywood in 2015, Hollywood in 2019, and Hollywood in 2021 and 2020. They just keep getting bailouts. Why would they change? Why would they change? I have absolutely they are like the spoiled child who knows that they can get away with murder because mommy and daddy will always come clean up after them. Always, because this is part of their propaganda machine. This is why we're not going to see this ideology die anytime soon, because they don't have the talent to actually produce anything worth watching. So they agree to push all of this propaganda as long as they can keep raking in the billions and have no consequences for it. And that's it. Like, it's insane. And then you give J.J. Abrams sets new TV and film production pact with Warner Brothers, signaling end of the mega deal era. Did it? Because this was in December of 2024. It is only July. It's only July of 2025. The 5-year deal pegged $500 million at the time. June of 2019. Okay? June of 2019 is when he struck this deal. They just struck a massive deal with Gunn. This deal only ended in December of 2024. What do you mean that the mega deal era is over? James Gunn is literally the co-head of a studio and has a blank check to do whatever he wants. He just spent $563.8 million on a vanity project. That is as much as they were willing to pay as they paid Abrams for 5 years of content. So between J.J. Abrams and James Gunn, Warner Brothers has spent $1 billion for content. And they have gotten a gender-swapped penguin, Creature Commandos, and Superman. That's it. Like, that $1 billion for those three things. When I tell you that Hollywood is so irresponsible with money, who is signing this off? I can't go to the bank and get a personal loan. What is it? So if you guys know, like, a collateral loan, for anybody that doesn't live in the US, you can have a collateral backed loan, or it's essentially, it's a free, like, you are the collateral, but you have to have, just impeccable credit, and you've already got to have a lot of money in your account. But the average American cannot get more. So it's secured and unsecured is the official term, right? So a secured loan means that it's against something like your house or your car or your business, okay? Or some type, you put something up. It's basically you're pawning something, right? And an unsecured loan means you're just taking out money without any type of collateral. Those are usually those interest rates are also usually really high. Okay, so kind of like a credit card almost. But the average American cannot walk into a bank and get an unsecured loan for greater than $2,000. I challenge you to walk into a bank and get an unsecured loan for larger than $2,000 if you are an average American. It's not going to happen. It just won't. So now what we're looking at is a Superman movie where Jor-El and Lara are genocidal Kryptonian supremacists, and Gunn tried to play with the nature versus nurture theme, but never really dove into it. What he tried to push was Superman is human. He is literally attempting to bring Superman down to our level. That is what he has said it in interviews. His Superman is not as powerful. I don't want a Superman that can punch planets in half. But he gave that power to Lex when Lex ripped open that giant pocket universe, and he was literally splitting the planet in half. So Lex can do it, a mere human, but Superman can't. So if you haven't figured out yet that when there's a part in the film, and it wasn't until I rewatched it for the third time, where Superman is like, you know that this is envy, right? Like you're suffering from envy. And Lex goes, yeah, I'm well aware. And my envy is going to save mankind. That was Gunn talking. He's envious of Superman. He's envious of people like who are genuinely good, who had good upbringings. And so when Gunn looks at Superman, he's like, well, he's not relatable because he can't have two good sets of parents. He has to have a bad one. So here's the thing. In the comics, there are a lot of iterations of Superman. But the timeless classic one that is beloved by all, the main one that Superman is known for, is Kal-El, Clark Kent, having good Kryptonian parents and good adoptive parents from the Kents. Like that is what he is known for having, like, just this sense of nobility and this altruism that seeps into his bones and that is generational. People for some reason think that that's boring. It's not. It isn't. And we need more of it. But Gunn couldn't get out of his own way. And he could not envision a way for people to relate to an actual good Superman who was altruistic and humble. Humility is not a thing in Hollywood, and it shows. It bleeds through exponentially in these films. It's bad. It's very bad. Yes, please, Jade Shadow. Did you send it to me? Let me go look. Talk amongst yourselves. Sorry. See, this is why I can't look at chat. I spiral way too fast. It's very easy for me to get sidetracked because there's so much stuff that I want to talk about, and in my brain it all clicks. But I realize that not everybody can track my erratic brain pathways. Oh, thank you. JH. Oh, yes, I did see this one. I think that the weekend to weekend drop is going to be very telling. I think that everybody is jumping the gun on this because optics matter in Hollywood, or so they think. So it is what it is. Jose Taco, so the thing about that is, like, my schedule is sporadic at the best of times. So it's really like, I either have to plan this stuff 3 weeks ahead of time, or I hop on the moments that I force time into my schedule. And most people cannot operate that way, especially as a co-host. So it just wouldn't work. As much as I would love one. And I don't disagree. But it is what it is. But I don't see this film cross. I said it before, and I think I might actually lower it. I think this film dies around the 425 mark. But I don't know if it'll cross 400, especially because it still hasn't hit 100 million globally. And I say that because we have one of the most recent equally big, I mean, not equally big, but I mean, say what you will, Aquaman 1 made $1 billion. Aquaman 1 made $1 billion with a B dollars. I honestly think that's because Jason Momoa was shirtless, and that's where they went wrong in probably this Superman film. Like, say what you will, but them women be thirsty. I'm just saying. Have you ever heard of Book Talk? Oh, my new video series. I got to get that out because it's insane. But Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom had 315.7 million at the box office, and it didn't hit 450. Domestically, it died. The legs on Superman 20 on James Gunn's Superman is going to be very, very, very interesting, because if the international box office doesn't pick up, I don't know where it goes from here. I really don't. I will be shocked if James Gunn's Superman clears half. If it hits 500, I will be shocked. I will. Because the international box office, unless a miracle happens or they absolutely fudge the numbers, I don't see it happening. So, Superman's box office, Warner Brothers confirms the fate of the DCU after Superman's box office performance. Here's the thing. They're not going to abandon this right out the gate and embarrass their studio head and themselves, because, again, between James Gunn and J.J. Abrams, they have spent $1 billion for 3 projects. That's it. 1 season of Peacemaker, 1 season of gender swapped Penguin, and 1 film. 1 billion with a B. So, Superman has officially sealed the fate of James Gunn and Peter Safran's rebooted DC universe for the 3rd time in 2 decades. After dominating the box office during opening weekend, Warner Brothers Discovery has released a statement about the first DCU film and the upcoming slate of film and TV projects. CEO David Zaslav has officially chimed in on the success of Superman after an impressive opening weekend. It wasn't impressive. See what I mean when optics, these guys are all about optics. It appears DC fans can breathe a sigh of relief. That's not what we're doing. As the studio head has sung the praise of the first DCU film while teasing what's to come. Per Zaslav, next up for the DC studios is Supergirl. Yes, the drunk party girl abandoned her dog with her cousin so she can fly off to another galaxy with a red sun so she can get drunk. That Supergirl. The Supergirl who was a teenager when Krypton exploded, and Superman could easily have asked her questions about what his parents said or did and confirm it's true or not, but doesn't. Yep, that's Supergirl, which recently wrapped filming, so it's done. Clayface, a body horror film from Mike Flanagan. So we get Supergirl, and then we get Clayface. And HBO's Lanterns, another television show, the adult sci-fi drama starring Aaron Pierre and Kyle Chandler. And I'm assuming that we're going to see Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner pop up here and there. 3 years ago, I hired James Gunn. 3 years! This man has been there for 3 years and has put out 3 things. Well, no, because Peacemaker's not actually his. They carried it over. So Peacemaker Season 2, which isn't out yet. So I have to correct myself. So there's the 3 things that between J.J. Abrams and James Gunn have come out are the gender-swapped Penguin, 1 season of Creature Commandos, and 1 film. And we have Season 2 of Peacemaker coming out. That will be James Gunn. And we've got Supergirl, Clayface, and the Lanterns. I don't even know what those production costs are, but if they spend money like they did on this, it's going to be atrocious. 3 years he's been there, guys. 3 years. I hired James Gunn and Peter Safran to reimagine and unify the creative direction of DC under one leadership team by breathing new life and excitement into one of our most iconic storytelling franchises in the world. James and Peter's commitment to honoring the legacy of DC Universe while forging something new and enthralling is inspiring. Gosh, they love their buzzwords, don't they? I remember my first meeting with James 3 years ago. He spoke about growing up in Missouri and how the characters of the DC Universe weren't just stories to him. They were like his family. His personal bond with these DC heroes was powerful, and I knew then that James was the right person to bring them to life. His love for the DC world runs deep, and it shines in every frame of his work. He doesn't love DCU. He doesn't love the DC universe. He doesn't love the characters. He read them, I have no doubt, but he stated on multiple occasions he couldn't crack Superman. If he's been reading these since he was a kid, Superman should have been the easiest and first character that spoke to him. Like, this all the ego that comes out of all of this. Somebody told me that, like, my obsession with James Gunn is adorable or something like that. No matter how much I talk about James Gunn, it will never be as much as James Gunn talks about himself. And that's just a fact. So it's, oh my gosh, it's just, oh, bye, Jade. Yes, we're only going to go for another 7 minutes because we've got another stream later tonight, but this one started late, so I'm going to let this go for one night. But thank you for coming, Jade. Hi, John. Yes, Bartolo levels of messy. That's one way. That's one way of putting it. But I remember my first meeting with James 3 years ago. Spoke about growing up in Missouri. This weekend we watched Superman Soar. No. As James Gunn's passion and vision came to life on the big screen. Superman is just the first step. Over the next year alone, DC Studios will introduce the films Supergirl and Clayface in theaters and the series Lanterns on HBO Max, all part of the bold 10-year plan. The DC vision is clear, the momentum is real, and I couldn't be more excited for what's ahead. They were never going to abandon this 10-year plan on the first outing. Superman would have had to make like only 10 million domestically or something for them to completely abandon this. But I'm telling you right now that you should focus. I'm not the only one that said it. But, like, why are you making a 10-year plan when you don't even know if people are going to receive your Superman well? Look what happened to the Snyderverse. That was an unmitigated disaster. I don't understand why this deconstructionism is so popular, but it needs to die quickly. Interestingly enough, Zaslav does not mention the next DCU project set to be released, HBO's Peacemaker. See? I knew he was forgetting something. Series which stars John Cena as the titular gun-toting vigilante will be the first and only DCEU property to move to the rebooted cinematic universe. It will be a natural follow-up to Superman since it also features the Justice Gang, the superhero team that the Kryptonian teams up with in the film. Meanwhile, other DCU projects in the pipeline include The Brave and the Bold. That's Batman, The Brave and the Bold. Teen Titans, God help us. Swamp Thing, that got canceled. Dynamic Duo, I think that's on hold. Waller, haven't heard anything about. Booster Gold, and Paradise Lost, among many others. They really are just throwing everything at the wall and praying something sticks. Like, that's where we've arrived at. This isn't a plan. This is a Hail Mary pass. Because, once again, they are $37 billion in debt. They have no idea what they are doing. How are you going to spend $1 billion? How are you going to spend $1 billion on 2 men and get 4 projects out of it? I don't understand. I don't understand. You don't hate Hollywood enough. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. But that is where the box office sits. Those were James Gunn's own words. As far as it goes with Laura and Jor-El. And it's interesting because this should have been an absolute walk in the park, home run, no questions asked type situation. Because, I mean, it's Superman. I am genuinely confused.
Might seem like a big swing, but Jor-El and
Click the button. So here, we're gonna go back to this right here. See, Superman's face is being smashed into the ground because, of course, it is. And let's hear what they have to sort of tie up Gunn's comments.
Not so far as Kal-El's origins are concerned. Taking such a risk in the first film of the new DCU might seem like a big swing, but Jor-El and Lara's nefarious intentions were in the script from the earliest days of the project. Quote, "It was in James's first draft," DC Studios co-chairperson and co-CEO Peter Safran shared. "The story hasn't changed at all. It's exactly what he initially pitched and wrote. James was always very specific about the story that he wanted to tell," Safran continued. "What you see is the movie that he genuinely wanted to make." So how does Safran feel about the change? Quote, "I love it. I never questioned it," he told IGN. "I thought it was an incredibly effective thing. I just love the idea that the family is about bond, not necessarily about blood. And that's his family. These people are his family, and they're there for him when he's down, and they're what bring him back up as well at the end. So I love that in the script, and I love it even more in the movie because I think performances are so..."
So Peter Safran, the co-head of the studio, thought that it was an incredible change as well. Nobody thought to tell James Gunn no at any point. This was in the first draft of the script. This is the direction that they are taking the DCU. This is the direction that they're taking Superman. They have depowered him. They have unsupered him. And they gave us a shallow, contrived, mid-movie at best. So I'm not surprised that the box office is 100 million below Jurassic World. I'm not surprised that it didn't have a Minecraft weekend. This movie is not making $1 billion. I initially said this movie was going to land somewhere around 425. I think this movie lands somewhere closer to 385 now, unless something happens in the international market. So you cannot disrespect a core element of Superman's legacy, of his heritage, of his character, and not expect some type of utter rejection of that. I go over this in my video review. It's bad. And the way that they portrayed Ma and Pa Kent, it was insulting. People keep trying to tell me that they know people exactly like that. I am born, raised, and raising my family in Middle America. I've literally got business associates there. I know men in their 70s who are running multiple cattle operations. They understand perfectly well how to use a freaking cell phone. I know my aunts, I've got mentors at the church that I have coworkers who are in their 60s. They do more posting and video chatting and video sharing than anybody like in their like it's all the ridiculous what's it called? Not like it's not memes and stuff, but they'll just, my gosh, I can't tell you how much they laugh at some of these shorts and some of these reels, and they'll FaceTime each other, they'll FaceTime their kids, they'll FaceTime their nieces or their grandkids. And it's just, we're not functionally stupid. We know how to use a phone. People from Kansas do not sound like they are from the Deep South. And it's not even a Deep South accent. It's a Hollywood Deep South accent. You barely get to spend any time with the Kents. You barely get to spend any quality time with any character. Excuse me. Pardon me. Had to sneeze. But I mean, apparently we're just a bunch of dumb hicks who still have to, walk 5 miles to get water and don't know what electricity is. It's insane on the face of it, and it's insulting. And I go over some of the stuff in my video review of the Kents as well, but there were little things they could have done, like just very little things, that would have greatly improved those scenes. But they chose not to. So it's, I don't know. It's just, it's a giant disappointment. This should have easily been a freaking grand slam. And it just wasn't, because James Gunn can't get out of his own way. His ego will be his downfall. And it's ironic that he put lines about envy into the Superman film. When he can't seem to have the self-awareness of what it's actually doing to him. So, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. I'll be live again much later tonight in like 3 hours. But before I go, chat. Let's see. Oh, hey, a little bit. Even when he isn't suited up as Superman, he is Clark and Kal-El at all times. Exactly. To sacrifice one for the other fundamentally misunderstands who and what Superman is. Boom, nailed it. I said that in my have you seen my video review? That's in there. Do you go to church? Yes, I am a cradle Catholic. I go to church on the regular. Every Sunday and on feast days, and I teach at a Catholic school. So I get as much Jesus as I possibly can. When Clayface and Supergirl underperform, Gunn will be let out of his contract. I don't know about that. I think that they are too desperate. I think they are too desperate for that. Oh, well, welcome home. Glad to have you. But that's sort of kind of where we're sitting. I will spoil a little bit more of my my video review because I did promise you guys. The two films that I think are better iterations of Superman, especially if you want to talk about, if you wanted to have like a story about a Superman who has to overcome all of this insanity, right? And basically you wanted somebody who was at the peak and then fell and then had to work his way back up, right? I think this movie does a pretty exceptional job, and the fact that robots have more heart than Superman is a real problem. Now, some of you might think I'm thinking of the animated one, that I also include in my review, and somebody was just like, "Oh, have you been talking to Fringy?" No, I don't talk to Fringy. But people are just like, "Oh yeah, were you watching EFAP?" I was not watching EFAP. It was actually a completely organic thought, but I'm glad I'm not the only one that sees it. I'm glad I'm not the only one that thinks it. But first and foremost, I think that as far as whatchamajingle, iterations of Superman, better iterations of Superman, Real Steel. I'm not even kidding. Real Steel is a better Superman film. A better, like, for what Gunn was going for, or what he claims he was going for, where he, like, was at the top, fell, and then has to work his way back up and doesn't have any respect. But see, the difference is that bot, even when it takes punches, it dishes out far more than what it gets. And it stands back up. And then you've got the Iron Giant. Iron Giant is probably the best iteration of Superman that we have gotten since Donner's Superman. And I stand by that. I think that that is an honest and fair summary of where we sit as a, well, not where we sit because we're not Hollywood. But I think that that is a pretty fair summation of where they sit. Because there is no creativity, there is no, there's not anything. I don't need a groundbreaking cinema. I don't need you to reinvent the wheel. I just need you to tell the exceptional stories in a different way. I feel you a little bit. I feel you. Jose Taco. Bye. Have a good night. So now that we've sort of covered all of that, and I spurred in the chat, but Shaq Steel would be better. I don't know about that. Are you gonna watch the remake for I Know What You Did Last Summer? It comes out this week. I don't know. Rihanna as Smurfette comes out this weekend, and I promised my 7-year-old niece that I would take her after I watch it and make sure that it's like appropriate. I may also take my own kids, but we'll see. I always pre-screen everything before my kids. Hi, wise guys. They're winging it and veiling it with big brain BS. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that was everybody that was in the chat. Jade has already bounced. Patrick Ollinger, hello. Hello. Mark Lasurth, what has J.J. Abrams produced? As I said, a gender-swapped penguin. And that's it. International flop, domestic projection of second weekend drop is 50%. Yeah. Even if it's 30%, like if it's anything above 30%, this movie is not cracking 500 million. It's bad. They need the smallest drop in history. F4 the weekend after, Fantastic Four the weekend after. It will not be anywhere near the break-even point, even if the drop was equally 50 The next weekend would be 110 million. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if the weekend drop is not less than 30%, this thing has no legs. It will die well before 500 million, and it may not see 400. It might not. It might just fall shy. CJ says the suit was the first biggest mistake. Corn Sweat to me, regardless of how hard he tried, doesn't feel or look like Superman to me. He's more so Superboy than anything else. I've heard that. And after watching it again, I agree. Greed, for lack of a better term, works. Yep, Gordon Luther. That's who Gunn says he relates to best is Lex Luthor, the Luthers in general. Yes, Superman does bleed in this movie, Queen Glamazona. Glamazona. I think he meant to go for Glamazon, but someone probably took it, so. Glamazona. You can get, I can't say that. Jose Taco. But Disper says, my video today was also inspired by Superman. What it needed was more than the base layer of storytelling. It needed to focus on the ideas and concepts, not just emotion. Yes, where I guess we will end it for today, because this is actually a fantastic place to sort of wrap up, is, if you guys have ever seen Denzel Washington, he gave a speech about ideas versus it's about small minds, big minds, stuff like that, right? So give me 1 second. See if I can find this bad boy. Here we go. This is it. No. Hold on. So, I agree with this brew. I can't believe I'm saying that. I agree with this brew. And this is something that, yes, John, I know, but Denzel says it better than me. He's the paid actor, not me. You probably would say it better than me too. But we're gonna go ahead and end it with Denzel. And Tisperu says, I've been thinking Fantastic Four will get Brave New World numbers at around 450. So if Superman gets that, Fantastic Four will bomb worse. I think that Superman is going to land between 385 and 425. And I think Fantastic Four does 350 to 400. That's where I think Fantastic Four lands. Unless it turns out to be the most shocking, awesome hit of the summer. But on that happy note, I will be back later this evening. Thank you all once again. It is very humbling and always a pleasure to get to hang out with you guys. I appreciate you guys spending your valuable time with me. I know that it's a lot. Like, time is precious. I am well aware of this. So thank you for spending some of your precious time with me. Chat, you remain undefeated. And as always, God bless. Godspeed. And I will talk to you guys later tonight, actually. Bye.
All minds discuss other people. Gossip. Good minds discuss events. Great minds discuss ideas. All minds.
Fly, you fools. I have been, and always shall be,